2025 has wrapped up as another big year for Warframe. Whether you've been playing throughout the year and want to refresh, or you've dipped out of the game for a while and need a catch up, what's happened in 2025? Obviously, some small spoilers are ahead. At the start of the year, we were still swimming in the incredible update of 1999, dropped in December 2024. Yes, I know what I just said. Since then, we've had the updates Rhino Heirloom, Lavos Prime, Technocyte Coda, Yareli Prime, Isleweaver, Caliban Prime, Vallis Undermind, and the Old Piece. Within these updates, 8 Warframes have been added. The Prime Axis of Lavos, Yareli, Caliban and Jaya were introduced in February, May, August and December. We also met the brand new Temple, Araxia, Noko and Uriel Warframes, with Temple and Uriel debuting with Proto-Frames Flare and Wraith. On top of this, a lot of weapons are added. Cedo Prime and Jewel Zoran Prime arrived in February with Lavos Prime. Purgator 1, EFV5 Jupiter, EFV8 Mars, Dual Visis, Riot 848 and 13 Coda weapons, the infested answer to the Kuva weapons, all dropped in the same Technocyte Encore update in March. Some Coda weapons are upgraded variants of older weapons like the Sporothrix, while some are unique new weapons like the Motivore. In May, we got the Compressor Prime and Daikyu Prime with Yareli Prime. June brought us the Sciated, Talus and Spinnerex in connection with Isleweaver. August added the Venato Prime and Vidaria Prime with Caliban Prime. October added the Arbacep Archgun with Noko, as well as the Thornback Newbie weapon introduced in the Teacher Quest. Both dropped in the Vallis Undermind update. Then finally in December just gone, we had the Vincubus Bayonet, plus the Fake Primes of Galaric Prime and Sagic Prime, all added with the Old Piece. I call them Fake Primes as they don't come from relics, but from other locations, just like the Gotva Prime. 2 standard primes also came out with Jaya Prime, giving us the Alternox and Kestrel Prime. In total then, 2025 added 34 weapons, some as variants and others entirely new. In the process, 4 prime groups were vaulted. Hildren, Wisp, Grendel and Gauss all entered the Prime Vault, along with their respective Prime gear, the Larkspur, Shade, Fullman, Gunston Master, Zylok, Exultra and Acarius. True to Dee's word of expediting access to vaulted primes with Prime Resurgence, Wisp and Hildren already returned in late November for about a month. Now gear is obviously not the only thing to have been released in 2025. 2 new quests were added, the Teacher in October and the Old Piece in December. The Teacher is a very early game quest, following on from Vor's Prize, teaching a new player the basics of modding and introducing them to Teshin, better tying into later storylines. This replaces the modding section of Vor's Prize, moving the mod rewards over to this quest for a more controlled and well-paced introduction to what modding actually is. While on release some veteran players said it didn't go far enough, I largely disagree. It covers what mods are, how to equip them, how to rank them up, and how elements combine to produce combination damage types. It also points a direction to learn about weaknesses and what to do with spare duplicate mods. This is great for getting new players into interacting with the systems without overwhelming them. Remember, this quest is aimed at players who only have access to Earth and have just learned about Endo. Additive versus multiplicative scaling, conditional features, arcanes, all of that can wait for when they're a little more advanced into the game. At least when it comes to early game modding, the values in the arsenal are everything one needs to know. The Old Piece quest is the exact opposite, a very late game quest on the frontier of our current story, and one that I won't dive into any further than just to say it exists. Play that story for yourself. On the topic of very late game updates, D have experimented again with a new way for newer players to access such content on release. They have previously experimented in a similar fashion with the Duviri Paradox, but that has already been moved to a later portion of the star chart rather than as an alternative starting path. This new experiment with the Old Piece is an optional mission preview, allowing newer players to play the late game missions, the Descendia and the Periton Rebellion, without having done the requisite quests. This comes with a few limitations, including no matchmaking for anyone below MR10 who hasn't done the quests, no level reduction on enemies, meaning mission preview players will almost certainly want friends with them to handle the challenges, no additional content access without meeting the requirements, one can play the mode, but the rewards cannot be fully realised without the quest done, and no complaining about spoilers. Skipping to otherwise story-locked missions will come with confusing story elements or reveals. A player choosing that route has to acknowledge that limitation on a game as long-running as Warframe. So if you did want to try out Warframe with experienced friends, or likewise invite newbie friends to start it, you can play the same mission together without the veterans stepping down to the rookie missions. The vet's just going to have to do some strong carrying and buffing to let the rookie truly participate. Having swept across the timeline of 2025 to the headliner updates and some of the most significant features, let's bring in the rest in chronological order. Starting with February, a new Nightwave launched and added 2 new mods to unlock, Leaded Gas and Biotic Rounds for the Vesper 77 and AX52 respectively. These have now been rotated out, so getting them means either waiting for the Nightwave store to be updated with them, or buy them from other players for a not small amount of platinum. The Cred store in Nightwave was also expanded to include 3 previous Nightwave mods, Xmas Advantage, Metamorphic Magazine, and Sentient Barrage. Then in March, we got a full-sized mainline update, Tekrot Encore. The titular Tekrot have their own adversary system now, similar to but more streamlined than the Kuvelich and Sister of Parvos journeys. Unlocked by doing missions in Holvania, these use a unique system of progressively wearing down the Tekrot virus, banishing it to the future, then crashing a concert in space. Even when it comes to getting the weapons, you don't need to continuously roll to start, like with Kuva weapons. Instead, each adversary grants currency to spend with Eleanor, allowing you to pick your desired weapon without as much faff. Eleanor has a shop with an 8-day rotation, showing 6 weapons for 4 days, then the other 7 weapons for the next 4 days, re-rolling their bonuses in the process. I've made a short going over optimizing the process of taking down these Coda duets. A new upgrade was introduced for all adversary weapons, the Elemental Vice. Once attached to a rank 40 adversary weapon, you can freely change the damage bonus on it to another type. The trade-off is of course getting to rank 40 and getting the Vice, but that's largely preferable to farming and maxing out a new weapon each time you want a different element choice. Tekrot Encore added the Roundtable, introducing us to Velamir and Minerva, Flair and Lizzie, and Kaya, all locked behind the requirements of the Hex Quest and rank 4 with the Hex Syndicate. Each new face came with Kim interactions through the POM PC, lets you interact with each of them while playing casual friendly time-travelling therapist. No dating options are available with the Roundtable Protos. Flair is also connected to a variant defense mode called Stage Offense. This mission node, exclusive to Holvania, sees you defend Flair in a rock concert, while the usual waves of enemies rush the stage. After the first rotation, the mission pays homage to an earlier lure defense tile. Every 3 waves also has a mini-boss spawn, a Screamer, for which you probably want your game sound turned on to appreciate its obsessive insanity. You may notice I said every 3 waves. Defense missions universally got their wave shifted from 5 to 3, with a small increase in enemy spawns to accommodate this. Largely, this makes defense missions much faster and more rewarding. In addition to the defense variant, we got an Archimedea variant. Apparently resetting a timeline over and over causes issues, and Kaya is conducting the research on fixing this. Our job is to take on much harder missions with restricted loadouts to somehow unwrinkle these timelines. This gives access to many rewards, including the new Arcanes Hotshot, Universal Fallout, and Escapist. You also gain stickers in the form of PDPix, which are ways to buff your future temporal runs. We're still not done with March. Other new gear outside of Holvania includes the Warframe Augments, Cataclysmic Gate, Conducted Sphere, Fused Crucible, and Omakuji Fortune. Omni Formas are added, replacing the old Aura Forma. These can go into any mod slot, making the slot polarity match anything other than the Umbral polarity. I don't know why DE insist on making Umbrals a pain to use compared to every other mod in the game, nor why Umbral Formas don't count as a universal polarity either, but that's what DE are sticking with. And finally, but by no means briefly, DE also added a lot of mechanical changes for new and existing players alike. A new minigame was added as Ollie's Crash Course. It is exactly what it looks like on screen right now. Exalted's got a rework, making all pseudo-exalted abilities like Bladestorm, Landslide and Whipclaw into their own modded exalted weapons. All pseudo-exalteds got overhauled base stats to allow them to interact uniquely with various buffs. All exalteds, including these, got access to full modding options, including the previously restricted Acolyte mods like Blood Rush. Arcane and Excellent slots were added to exalteds missing them. Stances on melee exalteds now grant mod capacity to help compete with modern melees. Exalteds got their own combo meter, visibly distinct from the melee combo meter, and scaling far more favourably for many previously pseudo-exalteds. And then, to top it all off, Razorflies for Titania no longer use mod interactions at all, becoming immortal distractions rather than buggy bugs with godly condition overload scaling. Newer players have had a significant shift in their early game experiences. Base mod capacity on everything has been changed. Instead of using either the higher value of equipment rank or your mastery level, all gear now uses 15 plus half your mastery level or equipment level, whichever is higher, up to level 30. This means an MR2 player getting a new weapon will have a 16 mod capacity available, not merely 2. This is incredible for making new gear much less of a slog to use, encouraging more actual use rather than leeching ranks every single time. A similar change happened a while back now with daily standing, moving from a cap of 1k plus 1k per mastery level to 16k plus 500 per mastery level. Taking half the scaling out of mastery and into the base just lets everyone below MR30 have a better experience by far. Other changes mean Cetus is no longer on the main path between planets. Venus's main mission path had a node removed and the necessary assassination mission moved onto the main path. Mars's main route to Deimos got halved. The Archqueen quest got moved as a requirement for Mars to a requirement for Saturn, which incidentally makes the opening cutscene for the Heart of Deimos quest a little more asynchronous. Ceres and Europa were removed as requirements for the Natar quest, Sire's Vigil was made a side quest, Loner Necromechs were added to the new war, removing a demand to build one in advance of the quest. Rhino's crafting time was reduced from 72 hours to 24 hours from the main blueprint. And finally, Steel Path no longer requires completion of any mission node or quest that requires the new war, including that quest itself. This means the continued expansion of Warframe would no longer push back access to Steel Path constantly. That is a lot of improvements for newer players. For everyone, new and experienced, further improvements were added. Squads formed through public matchmaking now auto-disband after the mission is complete, unless the mission is part of a chain like a sortie. Any pre-formed groups are unaffected, whether full squads or partial. This means running public missions like Relic Fishers doesn't then lead to players awkwardly dropping out one by one, or worse, force starting the next mission while you are still loading out, abducting you or crashing the game. Many market bundles have become prorated. This means if you own part of the bundle, you may be given a discount on the price to account for what you have. Not all bundles have this, but largely it affects bundles with non-consumable items like cosmetics and equipment. New settings for invisibility were added, allowing you to choose between the normal experience, a semi-cloak which makes you translucent but still allows you to see your own frame and fashion, or a glow cloak which adds an energy overlay without otherwise affecting your appearance at all. This is all cosmetic, but allows you to appreciate your cosmetics. Mod duplicates can now be quick selected for disposal, with sensible settings to avoid selecting expensive, ranked or favourite mods. Some settings are hard locked to avoid accidentally nuking your own account, while other settings allow greater freedom on filtering out desirable mods from the trash pile. And perhaps most important of all, the ability to replay the Fortuna intro has been re-added via this lever right here. Moving on to April, aside from hotfixes to various bugs and issues, the only change of note is that Helminth invigorations were slightly adjusted. On release, the Helminth preferred lesser used Warframes, giving them invigorations more frequently. Now, every frame is rolled fairly against each other with no bias. If you've been dodging the system because it never had a frame you wanted, give it a double check. In May were a handful of changes beyond the introduction of Yareli Prime access. Nightwave Volume 9 started. This introduced the Pain Points and Spontaneous Singularity mods, while also adding Critical Mutation and Volatile Variant to the Cred store. Mission improvements saw the Zealoid Prelate made considerably easier to fight, unless you're a solo on normal mode. The boss was getting Steel Path modifiers twice, which has been fixed, and the scaling for hit points when in a multiplayer mission has been reduced too. This atop the damage attenuation changes, later released in October, makes it far less of an issue to fight, but still a challenge for the unprepared. Over in Railjack, Void Storms gained a guaranteed corrupted Holokey drop, 1 in most storms, 2 in the Veil. This further speeds up the process of getting Tenet weapons from Ergo Glass, and puts a hard limit on how unlucky you can be in getting them when RNG refuses you the bigger Holokey drops. Ballistas and Eviscerators were updated, with Ballistas now tracking their charge shot with a colour change in laser sight, while Eviscerators gained a special ability to launch a line of timed grenades. Bailiffs were also introduced as a mini-boss styled heavy unit with considerable defences. Thankfully, this is only considerable, not pre-nerf Scaldred Dedicant levels of ridiculous. Archon shards had their removal costs split into the 6 different materials based on their colour, no longer hard depleting your bile stockpiles. Any non-Talford shards also now cost only 15% material to remove, down from 30%. And lastly, a universal Gemini emote was added, allowing you to have a single gear wheel pick to match your equipped Gemini compatible Warframe, or a random one if none match. In June, we got the late game update Ileweaver, continuing the story around Major Rusalka. On top of the already mentioned Araxia introduction, Valkyr got a rework. She's no longer immortal through her 4th ability, but instead can earn and maintain an immortality passive with melee combat. Overall, she is more fluid to play, devastatingly strong, and is no longer capable of playing Warframe golf. Such is the cost of progress. Ileweaver dropped alongside a rework of the Vor fight, and an introduction of a hard mode fight against him. Soloing hard mode with select Warframes presents you with a unique accolade glyph, or you can use mine in-game by redeeming market code the Kengineer. 4 new augments are added: Volatile Recompense, Prismatic Companion, Razor Mortar, and Jade's Judgment. In an effort to combat disruptive gameplay, slam attacks had their radius nerfed by tying them to the distance dropped for the slam. Short distances mean small AoEs. Barracutia now brings the Baro Surplus, a dirt cheap random item available on every visit, with an escalating chance to unlock a unique ceiling cosmetic. There's now always something to buy from him, even if not for ducats. For those who burned out on the circuit, or just with platinum to spare, Cavalero now sells a full kit for upgrading Incarnons, so long as those weapons are part of the steel path choices that week in the circuit. This doesn't let you acquire an Incarnon on an off week, but does mean you can skip both the circuit and the Duviri resource grind with platinum. And then an array of changes aimed at newer players in particular. Junctions were completely overhauled, turning each challenge into its own rewarding step and preventing junction entry until all challenges are met. The design is to make the progression clearer, more consistently rewarding rather than a bombard of new items of each planet, and fit more in with the modern Warframe UI. In the process, Phobos, Ceres and Europa were turned into side locations that are 100% not needed to complete the story. This in effect addresses what I described as the doldrums during the Zero to Hero playthrough, where locations exist and almost nothing happens on them. Arbitrations are now unlocked as part of the Eros Junction, rather than requiring total star chart completion, making them much quicker to access without the busy work of clearing out optional mission nodes. Taxon, the starter companion, has had its craft time reduced from 1 day to 1 minute. Rhino has had his build requirements adjusted to only require materials from Earth and Venus, locking him squarely in as the newbie's first constructed Warframe. This adds on to the earlier reductions in his crafting time, lowering the barrier to entry yet further. The Awakening quest was updated to award the primary weapon a new player didn't choose during the quest. Functionally, this means no more choosing between the Bratton or Paris in the very early game. Both are just available. While this matters less for the Bratton, obtainable for just 25,000 credits, it does help for obtaining the Paris, which otherwise must be crafted. Plant scanning has been replaced with a hold press action to claim them. Granted, scanning a plant giving you the plant was a bit weird, though I'm still not sold on having it be a hold press. Finally in June, the Railjack of the New War has had its stats buffed to assist players who hadn't adequately invested into the ship beforehand. Previously, low-level Railjacks were struggling with the quest section, and there's no option to back out if you discover you're undergeared. Moving through summer, there were no major additions in July, and in August the only major notes were Caliban Prime access, the vaulting of Grendel Prime and his weapons, and Teshin gained a button for not yet Steel Path players to be told which missions or other requirements were locking them out of Steel Path. Indeed, after Ileweaver in June, it was not until October's update that a major set of new content arrived. October's update, the Vallis Undermind, brought us Noko, the Teacher, and the earlier weapons I mentioned. It also gave us new bounties, performed on the new Undermind tile set, all in support of sticking it to Nefanyo and helping both Nightcap and the Prince. I'll leave the details around those two to your own gameplay. Undermind rewards also include the new Archgun Adapter, allowing you to install up to 2 Arcanes on Archguns, 1 primary and 1 secondary. Arc melees remain the joke they always have been. 4 more augment mods are added: Lingering Transmutation, Untimed Rift, Tharos Lethality, and Reverse Rotaswell. We also got the mods Dreadful Killshot and Necrophagic Vigor when Nightwave Dreams of the Dead launched. Oberon was reworked massively, keeping his original theme and abilities, but bringing them all in line with modern Warframe. In particular, his passive now acts as a squad-wide Mesmer skin, so long as he keeps claiming health orbs. I'm not about to weigh in on the decision to have 2 reworks back-to-back with immortality passives, just acknowledging that it exists. Damage Attenuation, the system by which enemies have scaling damage reduction to keep things interesting for advanced players, yet fair for casual players, was retuned massively. Many enemies which used damage attenuation had it entirely removed from them, because some enemies like Scouted Edicans never should have had it in the first place. Those that remain moved to using one unified system of attenuation, albeit with varying unseen stats tweaking those parameters. It's not perfectly clear what does and does not work well with this attenuation to this day. Some features perform much better than expected, while others languish. Generally, high crit abilities and strong boosts outperform lower crit weapons with no ability buffs. Nullifiers were reined in to be less immediately overpowering for some frames. Frost, Limbo, Mag, Oberon and Raxia no longer have their persistent AoE abilities, like Snow Globe and Cataclysm, obliterated just by touching a Nullifier bubble. Instead, Nullifiers either block the effects within their bubble, or cause a rapid reduction in the ability lifespan. A selection of bounty stages on open worlds that had unreasonably long timers have been reduced by up to 40%, and bounties now always randomise their stages each run, preventing farming of ideal sets of quick stages. I'm told the Aya farming community, which both exists as a specific community and was making intense use of this feature, were less than pleased. Arcane Dissolution with Lloyd, allowing you to turn unwanted arcanes into a chance at wanted arcanes, was expanded to include a Carvia pack and Hex pack, covering more of the available arcanes. And then lastly for October, new player experience buffs again. The mod console icons for upgrading or melting mods was made clearer on what each button does. The Phobos Junction had its rewards buffed, replacing common trash mods with the crucial flow and intensify mods. The Teacher Quest replaced Vor's Prize in both awarding early mods and as a requirement to access Venus. The Arsenal was updated to show that both credit and platinum routes to acquiring most items exist, reducing the appearance of microtransaction hell in the Arsenal. I can personally attest to this being necessary, given the first time I tried Warframe, after going through some concerningly easy missions, I was greeted with a wall of platinum purchase gear and soon gave up on the game. It was a lot later that I gave Warframe a second chance and found the gameplay access routes. Oh, and also the Grineer Asteroid tile set got a gorgeous overhaul. After the Vallis Undermind, November slid by without even so much as a hotfix, in advance of the Omega drop of the year in December, the Old Peace. The Old Peace brought its quest, the new missions in the Dark Refractory of the Perita Rebellion and the Descendia, and the new NPCs to be interacted with in La Cathedral, namely Roth, Marie and Leon. These three can all be dated after appropriate Kim conversations, officially adding polyamory as an option, so long as you do it across time periods. In terms of gear, I've already mentioned the new Uriel and Jaya Prime frames, plus their accompanying weapons. On top of this was the release of the new Tauron strikes, ultimate abilities for each operator focus school. These come with modding for the strikes, operator and amps in a single interface, competed for the 5 mod slots and 1 arcane slot. Each of the new mods and arcanes are exceptionally hard to remember, owing to not having real-world language names. While it's easy for me to remember that Transient Fortitude is low duration high strength, and that Heated Charge adds fire damage, I am not sure I'll ever commit to memory the stat line of Estivelica. All the new Tauron strikes require unlocking their artifacts from Marie through runs of Perita Rebellion, and then improving the strikes with both focus and resources in the expanded focus tree. The strikes are not reliably available in any given mission, but they are very cinematic. Outside of operator features, we gained yet more new arcanes to pick from. Concentration, Circumvent, Expertise, Persistence, Bulwark, Debilitate, Overcharge, Irradiate, and Careen. All of these come from the Descendia and Roth. Operators and Drifters were brought up to the modern standards of appearance, a massive glow up from what they used to be. Honoria, optional titles to augment your username and flex your game completion, were added in impressive number. Options include spending lots of credits, doing a bunch of Intrati Lab disruption, or dating a particular proto-frame. Finally, for new players, the Intrati Syndicate had their standing and rank up system adjusted, making tokens from anyone other than Mother substantially more valuable. Daughter, Father and Otak tokens quintupled in value, while Son and Grandmother tokens doubled in value, and the Seriglass Shard had its Grandmother token cost halved. As you can see, a lot was added or overhauled in Warframe in 2025. The new player experience continues to be revitalised, so it has never been a better time to join Warframe. New focus expansion, extended storylines, new faces and lore drops, new and refreshed locations, all atop the expected mod, weapon and Warframe releases. I hope this recap gives you everything you were looking for to get up to speed for 2026. If you want to talk more about this with fellow community members, join my Discord. Or to support this channel directly and get more in the process, join up on Patreon or catch my live streams. Links to all of these are below the video. And as always, know the past, have a blast, and fight well, Tenno.